Imagine waking up on Tuesday morning with no alarm clock, no Zoom meetings, and no deadlines. Sounds pretty good, huh? You're not on vacation, you're retired. In your 50s or maybe even earlier. That's the promise of the FIRE movement. Financial independence, retire early. And I'll say this right up front, I get the appeal. But before you commit to that path or rule it out completely, there are a few key questions worth asking. Because FIRE can work, but not for everyone and not without trade-offs. Welcome back. And if we haven't met, I'm Keith Demetriades, a financial advisor based in Pampa, Texas. Today, I'm going to explain what the FIRE strategy actually involves, how to evaluate whether it fits your life, and what you need to watch out for along the way. Also, you're going to want to grab the free Designing the Retirement You Want guide. It's linked in the description because it expands on some of the ideas we're talking about here today. So let's start with this. What is the FIRE movement and how does it work? FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. It's a strategy built around one goal, saving and investing enough money that you can stop working decades before the traditional retirement age. The idea is to live on significantly less than you earn. You typically save 50% or more of your income and invest those savings. You do this with the idea that your portfolio will grow large enough to replace your income entirely. You have a specific number in mind. Once you hit it, you've reached financial independence, and you can choose to retire early if you want to. It makes sense, right? But there are a couple of very important things to consider. One, following the FIRE strategy to the letter generally means living life without the bells and whistles. No extravagant vacations, no new cars, no gourmet coffees from the local cafe. Remember, the point is to save as much as you possibly can. And two, that lifestyle has to carry over into retirement. Because if you spend more in retirement than you did while working, that's going to throw off the math. For FIRE to work long term, you have to stick with a minimalist spending plan, even after you've left your job. We're going to talk more about those two ideas, but first let's discuss how you would get the ball rolling on this strategy. When I talk with people about FIRE, the first question they usually ask is, how do you know when you've saved enough to retire? The answer is you calculate your FIRE number. And there's a pretty simple guideline for it. Just multiply your expected annual expenses by 25. So if you plan to spend $60,000 a year in retirement, for example, your FIRE number would be $1.5 million. This number is based on something called the 4% rule. Conventional retirement wisdom says you can withdraw 4% of your portfolio each year, adjusted for inflation, and have a decent chance of not running out of money for 30 years or more. But there are two things to keep in mind. First, FIRE is usually a longer retirement than the traditional model. If you retire in your 40s, your investments may need to support you for 40 or even 50 years, not 30. That makes the 4% rule more of a starting point than a guarantee. Second, your FIRE number is based on expenses, not income. That's a shift in thinking. It requires a clear understanding of how you live, what you spend, and what kind of lifestyle you actually want to maintain. Not just now, but decades from now. And here's something a lot of people don't realize. In the early years of retirement, particularly if you retire early, spending often goes up. You finally have time for the things you put off. The travel, hobbies, home projects, even helping family. Healthcare costs can also rise, especially before Medicare kicks in. If you thought retirement spending would always go down, and this gave you something to rethink, tap that thumbs up. So while it's easy to calculate your FIRE number, I would caution that this strategy might not be as simple as it first seems. You also have to consider how your life might change along the way and after retirement. This leads us to our next question. Is the FIRE movement realistic for everyone? The principles, absolutely. The lifestyle, not always. Here's the reality. FIRE requires margin. Having margin just means you don't need to spend every dime you make to cover expenses. That could come from a high income, a low cost of living, or a willingness to sacrifice current comforts for future flexibility. Ideally, all three. If you're earning a substantial income and living well below your means, FIRE might be very achievable. But if you're supporting a family, dealing with medical costs, helping aging parents, or living in a high-cost area, saving 50 to 70% of your income may not be practical. But even if that's the case, it doesn't mean the movement has nothing to offer. In fact, I think almost everyone can benefit from this mindset. It encourages long-term thinking, reduces lifestyle creep, and helps people get really clear about their priorities. You don't have to go all in on FIRE to take control of your finances. You can borrow the parts that serve you and leave the rest. Maybe that means adopting the habit of tracking your spending, just to get a better handle on where your money's going. Or maybe you focus on increasing your savings rate by a few percentage points each year, not jumping to 50% overnight. You might decide to live a little leaner now so you can take a sabbatical in your 50s, not retire for good in your 40s. The point is, you can take the mindset of FIRE, the discipline, the intentionality, the focus of long-term freedom, and apply it in a way that fits your life, your values, and your responsibilities. There's no award for doing FIRE the pure way, but there's real value in asking yourself, what would I change today if I wanted more freedom tomorrow? What would your version of FIRE look like? Full retirement, part-time work, or just more breathing room? Let me know in the comments. Next up, what are the risks that come with retiring early? This is where most people, especially in the excitement of the early years, don't dig deep enough. There are financial risks, and there are personal ones too. Let's start with health insurance. Retiring before 65 means you're not eligible for Medicare, so you'll need to budget for private coverage. And that's not cheap, especially if you've had employer-sponsored insurance in the past. Then there's Social Security. Your benefits are calculated using your highest 35 years of earning. If you retire in your 40s or early 50s, many of those years will be missing, or will include lower early career income, which means your eventual benefit could be lower than expected. There's also longevity. A retirement that lasts 40 plus years means your portfolio needs to carry a lot more weight. And you'll need a plan that includes flexibility for inflation, market downturns, or changing needs over time. And here's something people don't always factor in. Your own preferences change as you age. I'll be honest, in my 20s, I crashed on a lot of friends' couches. I didn't think twice about sleeping on the floor or skipping a meal to save a few bucks. That kind of discomfort didn't bother me. But now, in my 50s, no thanks. I want a real bed, I want my coffee the way I like it, I want space, and I'm willing to pay for it. If your comfort standards have changed over the years, hit that thumbs up. Let me know I'm not alone. As we age, comfort matters more, not just physically, but emotionally. What we're willing to sacrifice at 30 might feel like a real burden at 60. And if your FIRE plan is built around a bare bones lifestyle you assume you'll stick to forever, it may not hold up the way you think it will. And then there's the personal side. Retiring early sounds great, but it can come with surprises, boredom, loss of structure, even identity shifts. You're not just leaving a job, you're stepping away from something that may have shaped your routines, your confidence, even your community. That's why I always tell people, don't just ask how to retire early. Ask what you're retiring to. Do you have a purpose? A plan for your time? A reason to get out of bed in the morning? FIRE is a financial strategy, but retirement is a life transition. You need to plan for both. So is FIRE right for you? Maybe, but it's not just about crunching the numbers or chasing freedom. It's about building a life that stands the test of time, financially, emotionally, and relationally. If you're drawn to the idea of FIRE, explore it. Understand how the math works. Reflect on your timeline, lifestyle, and responsibilities. Just remember, your ultimate goal shouldn't just be to stop working. It should be creating a life you're not trying to escape. I'm Keith Demetriades. Thanks for joining me today. And if this helped you think more clearly about FIRE or your financial path, please like, share, and subscribe for more real-world strategies on retirement, investing, and intentional living. Be a savvy steward. Make your life count.